recently, the Insider is reporting that Trump counties are actually having over 3 times more COVID deaths than Biden counties in the month of October. Meaning that counties that voted for Donald Trump in the 2020 election have over 300% more cases of COVID than counties that voted for Joe Biden. Let's read a little bit of the article before we talk about this. People are now dying from COVID-19 at a rate of 3 times higher in counties where former President Donald Trump won at least 60% of the vote than in counties where the President Joe Biden won a similar percentage, according to a New York Times analyst of the data. And that partisan gap, which didn't emerge until the widespread availability of vaccines in the spring of 2021, has consistently widened over the last 5 months. The gap, according to the Times, accelerated as its fastest rate yet in October, coming out to 25 COVID deaths per 100,000 residents in counties where Trump won more than 60% of the vote, versus 7.8 deaths per 100,000 in counties where Biden did the same. That is a huge difference. A late October poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that 39% of Republican adults remain unvaccinated, while just 10% of Democrat adults said the same thing. It's a stark departure from the beginning of 2021, when the COVID death rate in the so-called Trump counties was only slightly higher than in Biden counties, and where the death rate was highest in counties that neither candidate swept overwhelmingly. Okay. So, this is obviously concerning. The first reason it's concerning is because it shows what we all knew for the longest time, of course, that the vaccine has become extremely partisan. That if you are a Democrat, what you're supposed to do is go and get vaccinated. And if you're a Republican, it's a lot more likely that you are one of the people who think, you know what? This ain't for me, chief. Screw that vaccine stuff. Sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Sounds like some demonic fetal cell research bullshit, or whatever reason you could give, right? That's the first thing. And when public health becomes partisan, that's going to lead to a disaster. Because that means now you're debating basic medical science, which is not great. Now, where did the foundations of this get laid? I always like to point to 2015, where Donald Trump on the Republican debate stage, across from Ben Carson, an actual medical professional, tried to make the connection between vaccines and autism just 6 years ago, almost 7 now. That's where I think the foundation of this was laid within the Republican establishment to help push this messaging forward, right? And of course, that eventually evolved, right? Now, that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is it, of course, shows that the Republicans overall getting vaccinated at much lower rates, and of course, are dying at or catching COVID at a 300% increase from what the Democrat counties are similarly facing. Now, this is interesting because, number one, you would think geographically it would actually be the Democrats that would be the ones that actually are facing the toughest hill to climb, because Democrats are the ones who, live in cities, environments that traditionally the vaccine flourished in. If you look at Italy, it is the cities where it had the biggest impact. This is because people are the most condensed there, and it's the easiest for it to spread. While there's rural communities where you're less likely to see as many people in the day, you would expect the infection rates to be much lower, which shows just how effective the vaccine is. Immensely effective. If the cities are trumping the Trump counties purely because of vaccine usage, social distancing, and masks, even though geographically they should be the ones suffering the most. Carson said it wouldn't cause it. No. Carson was saying it wouldn't cause autism. Trump was the one saying that vaccines did cause autism. The next thing I wanted to bring up is the demographics of the Republican Party in comparison to the demographics of the Democratic Party, and specifically also the demographics of the evangelical community, which is particularly having a problem with vaccination and encouraging people who are a member of that community to get vaccinated. So the Republican Party and conservatives on average are usually older. This is just something that's true across basically all democracies in the world, that young people are usually more left-leaning, and right-wing people and conservative people are usually more right-leaning. This isn't really something up for debate. Yet, and what we're talking about today, the party that is majority more likely to be filled with elderly people, that's the party that has a much lower vaccination rate, where basically 4 in 10 of their members are unvaccinated, and they have a 300% spike in their counties in comparison to Democrat counties when it comes to COVID, even though, since their party is majority elderly, their party is the one whose membership is more susceptible to dying from COVID and having more severe long-term health effects from COVID. A great example of this, I would say, is Lindsey Graham's speech about COVID. Let me see if I can actually find this. Lindsey Graham, COVID. Lindsey Graham told a crowd to think about getting vaccinated. They booed him. Let's see if we can play some audio from this. It's quite interesting because if you look at the crowd, it's a majority, almost all of them,
if you hadn't had the
are elderly people. And look how the type of reaction he gets, even after he provides them accurate medical information.
vaccine, you want to think about getting it, because if you're my age...
Jesus Christ, that was loud. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would be that loud. By the way, that's another thing. There it is right there. Think about getting the vaccine. Lindsey Graham wasn't up there like, you need to get vaccinated. He just told them to think about getting vaccinated. And he then follows it up by giving them medical information. He follows this up. I've watched this clip like a million times because it's fascinating to me. Sadly fascinating. He follows this up with like, wait, guys. I'm just saying to think about getting it. And someone's like, no. And then he says, in Carolina, I believe it was North Carolina, which I believe is where he's from. In North Carolina, 92% of the people in North Carolina hospitals, or it's South Carolina, one of the two Carolinas, are the unvaccinated, which is a startling statistic. 92%. Those are numbers that if someone told me, I would think would be fantastical. And the only reason I really believe it is because what other reason would Lindsey Graham, somebody who has to play to a base that is more likely to be anti-vax, would say something like this? Lindsey, South Carolina. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's East Carolina. I appreciate it. 92%. And this is at a time where you can look at hospitals across this country and you'll see people being serviced outside the hospital because the hospitals are overflowing and people are dying of completely treatable diseases, not because we don't have the medical equipment. We are the wealthiest country in the world. Number one is because our healthcare system is deeply flawed and we need universal healthcare, and we need universal healthcare now. But it's also because our hospitals are overflowing with unvaccinated people who didn't get vaccinated, and then when they get sick, they're becoming a burden on the healthcare system. By now, we're finding out in Republican counties by a rate of over 300%. And in this state of South Carolina, 92% of the people in the hospitals are unvaccinated. He brings this up, and people in the audience just yell, liar. I wonder if they include the clip here.
I'm glad I got it. 92% of the people in the hospitals in South Carolina are unvaccinated.
Oh my God.
True.
Lies.
So I'm with you. But I am not going to legitimize what I think is the truth.
I'm going to lose my job in 60 days.
Unvaccinated.
I'm going to lose my job in 60 days. You got to stop it now.
From who? From who?
From the U.S. government, the Navy.
Yeah, so I'm with you. So I just don't think. Are you active duty?
No, I'm a civil servant.
Well, here's the one.
But I am a veteran.
Okay, I'm a veteran too. How many of you have taken measles shots?
They have completely bought into it, where even when Republican Party leadership will come out here, and CTV, thank you so much for the raid, Wolfpack, ooh. Even when Republican Party leadership are like, hey, just Look, let's just have a conversation about vaccines, please. Let's just have a conversation about it. Shut down, man. This stuff's honestly scary. It makes me think that it's just, there's just going to be a certain subsection of this country who are majority elderly, by the way, that are just going to continuously just reject medical science. Even when their political leadership comes out and is like, hey guys, let's just state some like uncontested facts, and it's just going to be called liars. They've always considered Lindsey a rhino. Yeah, but the thing is, he's just saying what are just uncontested medical facts. That 92% number isn't contested. That's just a statistic. It'd be like if I said like, I don't know the number, but let's say I said like 42% of drunk driving accidents are fatal. And someone just yelled, liar. No, why? You don't know. You didn't go fact check it in that period of time. You don't know that number. It's just you're so set to be against vaccines. They're so ideologically dedicated to being anti-vax. Now we've seen an increase of 300% in counties that voted for Trump when it comes to COVID. And in comparison to 1 in 10 of Democrats who haven't gotten vaccinated, 4 in 10 of Republicans haven't gotten vaccinated. I don't know, man.